friends, long time no see. Today I wanted to talk about using racism for comedic efforts here on YouTube and some of the stuff that's been going on this week and how I got wrapped up in it. A video went viral here on YouTube of a prank where women's butts were being grabbed in public, and this is just one of a dozens upon dozens of videos like this where men are getting naked and kissing people and just really crossing a lot of personal boundaries and normalizing really bad behavior. So the community responded rather quickly with an open letter to this content creator. A lot of big influential YouTubers signed it, including myself. It was passed around on Tumblr. It got picked up by a bunch of different blogs and websites. Eventually the video did get pulled. The content creator was dropped from their network, and they were also banned from YouTube's annual big fan convention. Now a lot of people are coming forward to say that that content creator actually crossed the line into abuse at times, and the conversation is so important, and I'm really proud of the community for stepping up in this way. But in the aftermath on Tumblr, some people were kind of noting that it was a little hypocritical to pat ourselves on the back for talking about this issue when there are still so many important topics that kind of get brushed over in this community, specifically those of racism, anti-blackness, and stereotypes about people of color. There's another really problematic trend on YouTube of making prank videos, and I use pranks in quotations because I don't consider these to be pranks, where people go to low-income neighborhoods that are specifically largely black or people of color and go up to people and try to antagonize them by calling them slurs, pulling down their pants, pretending to steal their phones, just really things that cross the line into harassment just to agitate people. And then they splice them together so you have a clip of just a bunch of black people being angry and being violent, and it really just kind of perpetuates a lot of negative stereotypes about black people, which then the comments are filled with lots of racism and just really gross stuff. In addition to content creators doing blackface on YouTube, using slurs, and having characters based on stereotypes about people of color. This is a really disturbing trend, and it's one that a lot of people aren't talking about, and a lot of the people that are doing these things are getting lots of praise in the community, lots of viral hits, lots of opportunities, and are collabing with lots of people. And the Tumblr community was like, what the heck, why aren't people talking about this? I lent my voice too, and I said that I also agreed, and I thought that it was really important that we nip this in the bud, and I really wanted to see some of those same big YouTubers who spoke out about sexual assault do the same when it comes to normalizing racism here on YouTube. When I first got involved in this conversation on Tumblr, I made the choice not to name names, and then at some point I made the mistake of sharing content from a specific creator who has been very much guilty of this throughout their 8 years here on YouTube, and that person has a ginormous fan base of over 10 million subscribers on YouTube, and I think upwards of 2 million on Twitter, and a lot of those fans include really young teenagers, which is a big part of why it's so upsetting that this has become normalized for that audience, and a big part of why I wanted to talk about it. Now, at no time did I ever use names or slurs to describe this person or attack them in any way, shape, or form. That's not how I roll. I will totally admit I am a very sarcastic person online and off. I try to use my sense of humor, especially when I'm talking about sensitive and difficult subjects, to make it easier for me to talk about, and so I definitely did that, but in no way did I ever advocate name calling or assaults on this person's character or anything of that nature. Instead, I decided to critique the content and not the creator, and that content includes jokes about rape, molestation, child abuse, domestic assault, racism, slurs, and also really inappropriate comments about Trayvon Martin, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, stereotypes about all different types of people of color. And to be totally honest with you, I'm not interested in watching this content because it's really upsetting and damaging to me, but I did think that it was important to talk about it. And in response, that creator's audience has gone on the attack. They have said all different types of things about my appearance, compared me to Hitler, compared me to plantation owners, said that I should kill myself, and of course used a variety of racial slurs to talk about me all over social media. The thing that I heard over and over again is, People calling me a hypocrite because of my video, Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls. Putting on a blonde wig is absolutely not the same thing as blackface, and here's why. White people are not the only people that naturally have blonde hair. Black people and people of color can naturally have blonde hair. Also, it doesn't have the history that blackface has attached to it. Blackface was specifically created to dehumanize Black people. It was used as a way to create wildly inappropriate stereotypes by white people about Black people and portray them as violent, savages, ignorant, dangerous, and really just kind of justify their mistreatment. That same history is not attached to blonde hair. Also, blondes are not an oppressed minority in this country. Actually, if you look around you, you'll see a lot of people spending a ton of money so that they can have blonde hair, because in a lot of ways it's seen as a status symbol. And lastly, that video is not upholding the mistreatment of blonde people or white people in the way that stereotypes about Black people and people of color do. That video is specifically addressing microaggressions, which is a form of racism where people say these completely harmless, unintentionally offensive things that they don't realize are really inappropriate and uphold oppression. Critiquing racism is not the same thing as racism. They just don't line up. Comedic videos where people are doing blackface and perpetuating stereotypes about Black people and people of color are not being shown as educational materials the same way that Shit White Girls Say to Black Girls is. I am so very proud of that video because it highlights a really important conversation about racism and microaggressions, and it has been seen all over the world in college classrooms, in high school classrooms, in women's studies classes, in African American studies classes. People have written dissertations about that video because it addresses racism and microaggressions in a creative and comedic way. Blackface does not do that. It absolutely has no ability to critique those things. It actually upholds oppression. So that's the difference. The person that I took most issue with has created an apology video where they specifically address the issue of blackface. And I do think that an apology is incredibly important when it comes to moving this conversation forward in a productive way, but it definitely means that you have to address all of the problems, and I don't think that that's what this apology did. Blackface is just one element that I and a lot of other people took issue with, including racial slurs, stereotypes about all different types of people of color, not just Black people, in addition to inappropriate jokes about people who have been killed because of racially motivated crimes. The next thing that's really important to understand when it comes to making a genuine apology for these types of things is why what you said or did is hurtful and problematic, and I really don't think that that's happened here. It's not just about offending people or hurting their feelings. Using racism for comedy effect actually supports a culture of oppression. And you just have to look around you in the news to see Ferguson, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, John Crawford, Renisha McBride, of course Trayvon Martin, and a whole host of stories about Black people and people of color being killed by police officers and vigilantes and not having any justice served. And what's incredibly troubling is that those same stereotypes that are used for comedy purposes are used to justify the killing and mistreatment of Black people and other people of color. Thugs, drug dealers, robbers, prostitutes, angry, dangerous. These are not just jokes. Words mean things, and these things actually permeate your brain and plant little seeds that people then carry around with them and influence how they behave. And it's so important to analyze this, especially when you have an audience of millions, not hundreds, not thousands, millions of impressionable young people that don't understand the power of these words and don't understand the institution of racism at all, for that matter. The last and most important thing is a commitment to change, and this is something that I want to ask you, the audience, to be a part of, in addition to content creators here on YouTube. It's really important that we do not create this content or support content that uses racism in place of real comedy, like comedy that takes work, not just regurgitating stereotypes that hurt people. And it's really important that we use our voices to call this stuff out so that people can educate themselves and understand why it's not okay. I will be the first one to tell you that it is not easy to do this, especially when you get in a position where you do have a platform and people want to attack you and accuse you of being jealous and call you names. It's really scary. but I really do believe that this is the right thing to do, and that's why I try to lead by example. I do think apologies are incredibly important. I don't want to discount anyone's effort to change and better themselves, but it's important to realize that that's just closing one chapter and starting a new one. So let's focus on the new chapter, and thanks for saying that you will make that commitment with me. I hope that I'm not projecting on you, because I think that that's what you're saying, right? As always, there are a bunch of links in the video description box referencing all the things that I talked about in this video, including educational materials if you want to get caught up, educate yourself, or share with others. I really encourage you to do that. And just a friendly reminder before I go, let's all try to be adults and not engage in personal attacks or name calling or slurs in the comments. I realize I am not everyone's favorite person right now, and a lot of people don't like me, but I'm totally okay with that because I like me and it's all good. But I want to keep this as a safe space for my audience and for you as well. So let's all just keep it nice. I don't know when I'm going to come back, and I really am enjoying my YouTube hiatus. I will be back. I'm not gone forever. I'm gone but not forgotten, hopefully. Okay, so I guess I'll just see you when I see you. Bye!